Buying a home, it's likely the most money you will ever spend at one time. Make sure you have a real estate team you can trust on your side, helping you every step of the way. Welcome back to the Dan Gemus Real Estate Show with one of the most trusted realtors in Windsor-Essex, Dan Gemus.
Okay, yes, back here, 1235 on AM800. And a reminder, if you are looking to make a move, downsize, upsize, side size, whatever it is, if you're looking to buy or sell.
I see what you did there. Okay.
Thank you, Aaron. Aaron Blackburn is here with me. Then the Dan Gemus team is here to help. You can reach out to us 7 days a week, 519-566-5565 at the office, or find us online at dangemus.com, DANGEMUS.com. We should also give a huge congrats out to our good friend of the Dan Gemus team, Marg Prince, who won the gift card for the Richmond Popcorn Company today. Marg's a team client. So there you go.
Congratulations, Marg.
Yes, and she's a popcorn client too, so she'll enjoy some free popcorn. There you go.
Perfect.
So there you go, Mark. Good to hear from you, although we didn't talk to you, but it's good to hear from you again. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so our segment with Christian Janisse from SimplyClose, it's time for him. Hey, Christian, how are you?
Hey, not bad. How are both of you?
Well, fantastic.
Great,
thank you. It's a steamy summer so far, but here we are. We'll be complaining it's too cold soon enough, so may as well enjoy it.
Yeah, very steamy.
No doubt. How are things in your world?
Oh, actually super busy because of the summer. We've been swamped. June, July, August are generally like the three busiest months of the year, at least for us. So yeah, super busy.
Fantastic. So listen, you got a great topic today. The relationship between MLS listing and agreements. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so like over the last couple of times that we've been on, I've talked a lot about the agreements of purchase and sale, and this is kind of repetitive, but I feel like it bears repeating. So the MLS listing is what's known as marketing material. So anything that's in the MLS listing, you cannot rely on that if it's not in the contract itself. So we've talked about this ad nauseum, but for whatever reason, it still comes up pretty much every day in our practice that if it is not in the agreement of purchase and sale, generally it's not enforceable. There's a couple caveats to that, like if there's a known defect that makes the property like unsafe for habitation, or it was like deliberately hidden, something that's like fraudulent, or like there's a couple extenuating circumstances that could allow you to fall outside of the boundaries of what's enforceable and what's not enforceable. But basically, if you want something to be enforceable, you need to put it in the agreement, because there's a clause in the agreement. It's called, just generally speaking, it's called the entire agreement clause. And it says anything that we've talked about, anything that we've said by text message, anything that has ever been discussed about this property is out the window, because our agreement is strictly within the four walls of this paper, to say. So if there was something like, hey, has there been any water damage, and you don't put that in the agreement, then it's very unlikely to be enforceable. So, even small things that people don't think of that fall into the gray area, like if, we've talked about chattels and fixtures all the time. If there's like a TV mount, like if you want it, or you want to make sure that the seller doesn't take it, or you as a seller want to make sure that you can take it, just put it in there. TV mount to be taken.
So somebody can't say, oh, you know what? Wait a second. On the listing, it mentions the appliances, but it's not in the agreement. So I want the appliances now. Not possible.
Exactly. And there was a case from a couple of years ago where property taxes generally come in two stages. You got the interim bill for the first half of the year, the final bill for the second half of the year. A lot of times people, don't really pay attention to their taxes. They get the bills, they pay them. But if you were to ask somebody, hey, give me your property taxes, they're going to give you whatever the latest bill is that they got.
Sure.
That's only going to cover, if it's the interim one, half the year. It doesn't cover the other half. So if the realtor doesn't pick up on that and they put that in the MLS listing as, taxes are $3,000, but it turns out they're actually like $6,000, that's actually not enforceable. So you can't turn around and say, oh, hey, the taxes were wrong on the MLS listing, because it's all just, the MLS listing is a marketing tool. It's an informational tool. And we've talked about buyer beware when you're going into these contracts. It's up to you to do your due diligence to satisfy yourself that you know what the taxes are, unless you put it in the agreement that property taxes are $3,000. Anything that's in the MLS listing. Appliances, we see that a lot where there's, 5 appliances listed in the MLS listing, but in the agreement there's only 4. and then the seller takes the one appliance, and then there's a dispute, and they go, oh, well, it was in the MLS listing. It doesn't matter. Like, judges have said that it doesn't matter.
Interesting. Well, to me, it all makes sense because you have to have, you have to have a document somewhere that stipulates everything, right? Because at the end of the day, like you said, you have text conversations, you have in-person conversations, you have, all kinds of things. What holds true, right? So you have to go by something.
Yeah, and I would imagine, I don't do the negotiations, but I would imagine that there's maybe things that were discussed at one point in time, like, oh, can you include this? And it's like, yeah, we can
100%.
include that. And then that's what factors into the price. But at the end of the day, a final decision is made, and you may have talked about a lot of things, and then it's like, okay, this is where we landed, and where we landed is the agreement itself.
Right. Yeah, because at the end of the day, as you mentioned, Chris. Right. And as you mentioned, that there could be times during negotiations where, if we're representing the buyer, we'll say, listen, we know you have the appliances included, but in discussions you mentioned you would like to keep them, so we'll offer this price and you can keep your appliances, even though they're listed in the agreement.
Yeah. And even just things like...
in the listing.
When people go through the properties at the beginning, like before they put the offer in, if there's things that the seller needs to do, and I do actually see a lot of realtors cover this off, but it doesn't always get covered off. And it's like, if you see something that this needs to be fixed or that needs to be fixed, like, put it in the agreement. Otherwise, it's not necessarily required by the seller to fix it, because they might say, well, no, I was going to fix, whatever, that hole in the wall, but that was when they offered me, this amount. But then, we went back and forth, and we're not fixing that anymore. That was based on the higher price, but we've gone back and forth a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's crazy that, a lot of time, and the intro to the show, it says that, buying a house is one of the most expensive and most important decisions of your life. It is, and there's just so many things, which is why you actually do need a really good realtor, particularly if you're buying, because there's a lot of due diligence on the buyer. Like, there's a lot of onus on the buyer.
Yes,
so if you don't have a realtor, or you're not educated yourself in terms of, like, all the things that you need to cover, it's crazy some of the things that come, like, that we have to deal with. And I'm like, I would have, personally, I would have never thought of that.
So a couple of questions are coming in via text here, Christian. I want to tackle a couple of them. One's a bit more generic. So when someone buys a new house at a much higher price that the previous owners did years ago, do their property taxes go up for the new buyer?
No.
Yeah.
If it's not a new build, so if it's a new build, then your taxes are generally reassessed afterwards, of course. If it's just I'm buying a property that was already built, like a resale property, the taxes don't go up. The municipal like MPAC, they do the assessments like on a regular basis. But if it's just the purchase price went up, then the taxes don't go up. The taxes generally go up if you do a major renovation. So if you're buying off somebody who bought it for cheaper, and the reason why you're paying so much more is because they did an addition to the house, then it's likely that the taxes actually will go up in that situation.
We've got another listener that's asking a question about title insurance and about how they were surprised at the interesting things it covered that weren't necessarily they thought it would necessarily cover. So, which is very surprising because that's something we've talked about in the past, right? On the show here, title insurance. We should explain what that is actually for those who don't know, Christian.
Yeah, the title insurance is basically, it's an insurance coverage that gets paid for by the buyer. If you have a mortgage loan, you generally need it because it's required by the mortgage instructions. If you don't have a mortgage, I don't know any lawyers that will close a deal without it. So it's not required, but it's essentially required because it covers things like anything that comes up if a survey, because we don't have up-to-date surveys anymore. So back in the day, like way before I even started practicing, lawyers used to charge a fixed fee, like 1%, similar to the realtors, but that's because you had to get an up-to-date survey every single time property changed hands to check the boundaries, and there was just so much more work involved, which would slow down the real estate market because now you got to go get a survey, you've got to, do all of these additional searches. And title insurance has evolved beyond just boundaries and like protecting like your ownership rights. It also covers things like unpaid property taxes, unpaid utilities. So when you move out, if the previous seller doesn't pay their final bill or doesn't even pay some of the previous bills that they have, the water in particular, not the electricity, but the water can form a lien on the house that you have no way to enforce unless you go after the seller themselves. But now your title insurance policy will cover that. So it covers quite a bit of things. If work was done without a permit and an order to comply is issued by the municipality, your title insurance will cover that. So it covers a wide range of things that it's pretty much the gold standard for, like, it makes buying and selling, or it makes buying a house so much more easier for the buyers.
I've talked about it on the show in the past, Christian, but years and years and years ago, like 15 years ago, I had a client who they bought a home in South Windsor. It was a vacant lot next door. The builder goes to build next door. They're it's in a cul-de-sac, so the lots are kind of pie-shaped. They get home from vacation, and their driveway and their yard is ripped up. They started building next door, and come to find out, the fence, they had an in-ground pool, and they were all on the fence was over too far, and the pool and the fence were in fact on the neighboring property. And so title insurance ended up getting involved, and they ended up buying on paper more land from the lot next door to make up the difference. But in fact, that pool was installed and the fence was installed on the neighboring property by a couple feet. And so the way they fixed it was title insurance ended up buying a couple feet of the neighbor's yard.
Yeah, I know that story because you've told me, and I steal that example all the time when I'm explaining title insurance to buyers who might ask questions. The other thing that it covers is that sometimes there's these, like, so the land registry used to be paper-based, and now it's all electronic-based. But back when it was paper, there was a lot of, not a lot of mistakes, but there were mistakes. Mistakes were more common because they were all handwritten, right? So, like, sometimes an R could look like an O, and things could be different. And without title insurance, if there's a mistake like that, that's a really, it's not a harmful mistake, and it's pretty obvious that it's a mistake, and it's not really going to affect you as the buyer. Like, if you're a buyer, you're like, okay, like 85 years ago, there was a typo. Fine. Like, I can see the property. Well, now title insurance, like back in the day, you wouldn't be able to close the deal, but now title insurance says, you know what, we'll cover any harm that's caused by that mistake. So you can now close the deal. You can close the deal. It doesn't even have to be fixed, because if it ever comes up to become an issue, the title insurance passes that coverage to every subsequent buyer, and they say, we acknowledge that there's a mistake. We're not going to delay the deal. We're not going to make you have to wait 6 weeks while we go get a survey to redo the legal description and cure all the historical defects. We'll just guarantee coverage over that issue, and now you can rest assured that your title is fine, basically.
Well, this is all, first of all, it's worth the extra few $100 that the buyer would pay for the title insurance, isn't it?
Yes.
100%.
My gosh. Awesome, Christian. Listen, if anyone has questions for you out there, what's the best way to reach out to the SimplyClose team?
They can email us at hello@simplyclose.ca or give us a call at 519-997-3775. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
stay
Christian.
Cool.
Thanks, Christian.
See ya. It's Christian Janisse, owner of SimplyClose, a real estate law firm, and great information there. But title insurance, it's surprising, Aaron, as to what kinds of things it covers, isn't it?
I mention it to a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Make sure your lawyer's talking about title insurance. Get some title, because you never know what's going to happen.
Nope, 100%. 100%.
The pool situation, who would ever thought?
Who would ever thought? Yeah, they literally came home from vacation. Their front yard, which had in-ground sprinkler, was all ripped up out of the yard.
Unbelievable.
The driveway, the concrete driveway, was ripped up on the corner. It was just a giant mess.
Welcome home.
Yeah. Seriously, welcome home. Could you imagine coming home from vacation?
All relaxed, and then all of a sudden you just blow your stack.
I'm like, it's amazing. They just kept on going. No one's home. Keep going.
Oh, my.
Deal with it later.
Jeez.
Okay, we'll take a break. We're going to come back with some listener questions. Lots more to come with Aaron Blockmeyer. I'm Dan Gemus, right here on the Dan Gemus Real Estate Show.